Nirupama Rao is a psychologist, certified anthroposophic psychotherapist, and a biographical analyst. 30 years back, a summer internship drew her towards children. In the past 27 years, she's worked with children in special and mainstream schools, hospitals, adoption homes, clinics, co hosted a radio show on parenting, and ran a Waldorf kindergarten for special children called Niramaya, which also happened to be my daughter Kea's first school. Currently, she consults with preschools, conducts workshops and webinars, and guides and supports parents and teachers of children with different needs, and is also associated with a few NGOs. Her approach focuses on conscious parenting and natural lifestyles inspired by anthroposophy. Her interests include blogging, art, craft, indoor gardening, and music. She's authored books, namely Parenting, the Art and Science of Nurturing, and The Autism Story. She is the mother of two lovely girls and a cat who teaches her how to be a better parent and a better person every day. Welcome, Nirupama, to my platform I'm Possible and Smart.
Lovely to be here with
It's
you.
always a pleasure. It's always discussing offline in terms of, how you as an individual over so many years of being in the education space, in an environment where you have seen so many differently abled children and adults, have developed a perception and understanding or an observation about inclusivity in your society, right? Or in our society, so as to speak. Inclusivity comes with empathy. Exclusivity comes with lack of empathy. That's the relationship that is crystal clear in my mind. But what's been your perception over the years?
I think what is most important, even before we talk about inclusion, is understanding. There is fear when there is lack of understanding. So I think once we try to understand what is happening, why is it happening, how we can help, I think that leads to a little more confidence among the people who are right now afraid to include, because they feel they don't know how to handle it. I think understanding is the first step. Being comfortable, maybe out of this, out of the comfort zone, because they'll have to make adjustments, because they can't do everything smoothly. People want everything to just go without any hassle. You are challenged to be better as a human being, and you are challenged to come out of your comfort zone. So that is the main issue, I feel. When you face a challenge, you feel, oh, my competence is being challenged. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look not competent. That makes people really not want to get into situations.
I'm just going to take you a bit behind, okay? I don't know what your trigger was, but in general, I'm just talking about, leave alone the topic of inclusivity right now. Okay, let's just talk about communication skills. You and me are talking, right? We're talking in a very free-flowing, unrehearsed manner, which is very conducive to the topic, and we're being able to comprehend what each of us are saying. How many people, I'm talking about normal people, the so-called normal people in the world who undergo or rather go through this education system in our country, are able to express, communicate, debate, leave alone talk to somebody who's specially challenged? That comes much later, right?
The problem is that everything is so outcome oriented.
Exactly.
There is no process orientation. Everything is outcome oriented. So whether you take it a work situation or take a school situation, teachers are forced to complete curriculums. Teachers are assessed based on the children's performance these days.
Correct.
Everything is rated. Everything is appraised.
Correct.
So there's so much of a outcome orientation that no one has time for a process. If there was a process orientation, probably people would have looked more at how is this happening, how is learning happening, how is performance happening, what are the discomforts people are facing, what are the challenges people are facing. How can we help people to perform better?
Just step out of the door and you have to go, let's say, to a shop or to the school for an admission, or take just any activity. Every environment starts differentiating. every environment is differentiating. Whether it is, you go to a regular school and say, can I have admission for both my children? I would want them to study in the same place so that it's easier for me, right? They say, no, we are not equipped. You go to the healthcare system, the healthcare system will say, okay, fine, we can take care of one child because she has got no genetic underlying disease, whereas the other one, it's again differentiating. When we are differentiating everywhere, how do you think the society is ever going to get closer to an inclusive environment? Right? We can train maybe the educators, we can train maybe a certain section of the society, but overall, this will never, this will never get achieved because every system is anyway trained to get differentiated, right? It's not because people are innately bad. It's just that they're living in a very, very confused space and they do not know what is right from what is wrong, leave alone anything else. This has been my trigger to have this dialogue. Nirupama, what has been your trigger to explore in this space?
I'll tell you how I started. I finished my graduation and I joined a special school as a volunteer, like a summer intern. It was a 2-month internship. The amount of love that I received from the children there, it was like completely unconditional. I mean, that was the first time I knew what unconditional love was. I probably didn't even know that word then, but I experienced it. So much love. Like, what have I even done for them? That was the moment I decided that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with children. Once, when I was unwell, I was totally low on energy and I felt like I just want to sit and do crochet and like just stop everything else and not do anything. It was my daughter, my elder one, who told me that, this is also an experience that has made you richer. And there are people out there who are depending on your experience to help them to find a way. So if you sit here and just do what you like and stay in your comfort zone and not go back, it's okay for you. You can do that. But think of all those people who can benefit from your experience.
That moment of affection stuck on with you. You chose to walk into an environment which is not a very common one, and you experience something that you wouldn't have found in a regular environment, right? And that's what attracted you. And I think that is where exposure of a normal person in the society today is required. You go out into a public space, you don't see people on wheelchairs, you don't see people on crutches, you see everybody who's either on heels or boots and they're walking. So there is no diversity in the population that people are visualizing, leave alone anything else. When you do come across somebody who is in a very adverse situation physically or otherwise, you get scared.
You're so right. When I started, the incidence of autism was in 93, 94 I started. The incidence of autism was what, like 1 in 6,000 or 1 in 7,000. Now it is 1 in 50, 1 in 60, they say.
Yes.
But where are they? I don't see them.
Everybody's holed up.
If there are so many children,
where are they? The question is, why are they not out there? I keep asking myself, why is it so difficult for us to move around? There is fear, like you rightly said, there is fear on both sides, which is separating the sections of the society. The so-called normal people are not exposed. They do not know, or rather they're not equipped how to handle or how to react. So all they say is, oh, how sad, oh, poor thing. And the other side is like fear of not being able to do the basics, like move around comfortably, very basic. So we feel protected at home. And in this situation, how in the name of God are we ever going to create an inclusive place for children of all kinds, in the future?
There's no system in place. I'm inspired by this philosophy called anthroposophy. It's a spiritual science. It's a spiritual science, and it talks about how we are all connected to each other. We are all connected to nature, to the cosmos. So we are all responsible for people suffering around us. We all have a role to play. We all need to own every child who has a disability. We are all responsible for this, so we are talking about gender inclusivity and social religious inclusivity and all kinds of inclusivity that we talk about. Keep thinking that that's their problem, it's not our problem. we are never going to improve as a society.
Absolutely.
Unless it hits us personally, we are not thinking about it.
So when something hits you, you're literally left without a manual. You're looking everywhere, and you can either break down and cry, or you can pick up your pieces and you can say ki chalo kuch karte hain, and you literally learn block by block, brick by brick, and you're building something which is not there anywhere. These are very, very deep subjects, right? And I think you've been in the education space, you've worked at grassroots levels, you've actually spent a lot of time with children, including Kea, right, in her early days. What has been your learning that you have been carrying forward? What do you do when you're talking to another person? How do you pass on or disseminate what you've learned?
As I was working in the school with children, I realized that I need to work with adults because adults are running the show, right? Adults are making things happen, So if I have to do something for children, I have to go through adults.
Absolutely.
So I started working with parents, I started working with teachers, I've started going to different schools, conducting workshops, awareness programs. Also, I do more of counseling with parents now. Kind of a psychoeducation, you could say, because I've been seeing children since 94 now. It's almost going to be 30 years. So I have seen like a panorama and I have a bird's eye view. But parents have only seen their one child. Like you said, there is no manual. Right. So they need all the hand holding and the guidance and support that they can get. I also write a blog. I try to write articles. I have written a couple of books. I've been invited, to talk to corporates about awareness, on special needs, on mental health. I recently completed the certification in anthroposophic psychotherapy. At you completing this, I feel I'm a little more equipped to work with adults because whether you talk about parents or caregivers, they come with their own baggage, they come with their own biography, they come with their own life stories and how these life stories affect their children. These are all the different ways in which I try to reach out and try to be the voice for these children.
Ask for reforms. I'm not sure who you're going to ask this from, but what would they be? From whatever you've experienced with parents, with children.
Child psychology is there in B.Ed programs, but what is lacking is heart. We have it all up here, but it doesn't come down to the heart and doesn't come down to the will. I'm going back to this philosophy that I talked about, anthroposophy, where we talk about human beings having a head, a heart, and hands. Okay? So we have ideas, but we need to feel enough to bring those ideas into action. So head is the thinking, heart is the feeling, and hands is the willing. So we are all stuck up here. The ideas don't percolate down into the heart and come out as action. There needs to be more focus on educating the heart and educating the will.
Every word you're saying, right, just keeps taking me back to this one point. The children who are challenged are not allowed to mix with regular children, right? Now, when you're not letting a child meet another child, how does empathy develop and how does that child's heart develop? Because unless they are exposed to each other, you will never know how the society can adjust to each other when they grow up.
Absolutely. And inclusion benefits not only the child who is being included, it helps all the children in the class who are classmates of the child who is included. All it needs is dil and will.
Absolutely. Like I was saying, what are your asks from the system that you noticed today?
Two things, which can be like a model for other things. To happen in similar ways. Two things. The Spastic Society of Karnataka, where I was working, had a program on inclusive education 15 years back, where they would invite teachers from schools, different schools, to come and attend that program. Rukmini was the director then. She was an amazing lady. A lot of teachers from various mainstream schools used to come and attend that program and learn about what are these different abilities, what are the various issues that we can come up in schools, what are the kind of help that these children need, just to become more aware of it. Another thing was Eurokids. Again, when I was in Bangalore, I was on their panel of Eurokids. I used to teach a paper on special needs for their teacher trainees. So imagine hundreds of teachers get trained, and if they are all trained at the teacher training level on what special needs are, what are the different kinds of special needs that you can encounter in a classroom, and what can you as a teacher do, maybe to identify or to lead the child to the right kind of help. The teachers have this much of information, then they'll know what to do, right? Like, I think information is the key, or awareness is the key. Another thing that I really wanted to do back then was to go to medical colleges and speak with all the MD pediatric residents and students.
Acha.
Because at that time, even the doctors were not. Now, of course, there's much more awareness. But those days, even pediatricians were not aware of autism and early signs of autism, and how in other countries you have well baby clinics where children are screened for developmental milestones. Because some of these milestones can be seen, or red flags can be seen as early as 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, 15 months. You can really catch them early and start intervention. Diagnosis is not important. I think intervention is more important. Early intervention is very, very important. But I think all these doctors need to know, teachers need to know what are the red flags, what are the signs, how do we catch them early, how do we start early. Even in autism, it's so difficult for parents to accept. Okay, it's easier said than done. The sooner you accept, the quicker you can start interventions. But it's
Doesn't
difficult
happen.
because there's lack of information, lack of awareness, and these days the line is also so much thinner because of lifestyle issues. There are so many children having so many issues. It's just neurodivergence now. There are sensory issues, there are attention issues, there are hyperactivity issues, there's restlessness.
Which is why I feel somewhere, along with medical support, if mental
health support
and counseling support is given to parents to begin with, to adapt, to accept, to understand, and then equip themselves to go ahead and deal with.
Also, they should know that it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
It's like when you go through something, it totally increases your empathy levels, and you know what others are going through. It's like the best special educators are moms themselves. In the field of education also, you see all the big establishments like spastic society. So many institutions have been set up by parents of children with special needs.
Exactly.
It's like they become so empowered, they become so good at it, that they have gathered a whole lot of experience that they can give to people. What keeps you motivated, what keeps you, every day you keep posting, every day you keep at it, something or the other. I mean, it's like, I know you're a mom, but I sometimes I really admire and appreciate your positivity and your energy and the force that you bring.
Within the fear of giving up after having come this far.
I know.
So there are always two sides to this coin, right? So one side, and you deliberate it every moment of your life. You're like, okay, just hang the towel now, let it be, jo hai. Whatever it is, we lead it through, right? No need to struggle anymore. Already there's so much of it. But the other side of it is, what if, I can I can go up to the finishing line, right? What if I can
Yes,
for my children?
exactly.
Because if I am alive today and I have spent so much of my life for them, if I leave this job unfinished, then it's going to
Yeah,
be a waste of
I know.
everything, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the only thought, Nirupama. It's the fear of not being able to finish what you have started. That gives you enough drive. At least it gives me enough drive, and I cannot hide my life any further, right? It is out in
This is
the
your life.
open. It is my life, and it has to be fought this way. There is no other option because
Absolutely.
it is the framework given to me. All these years I had no framework. I was doing it silently, but today I've been asked to go seek help and to collect financial support to be able to arrange for a life-saving treatment. I have been given no other option. So am
Correct.
I going to fear that of what you think, or am I going to fear of have the fear of losing my child, which is going to be important for me? All these years I never spoke about it. I never did. I smiled, I attended your functions, pretended to be absolutely normal. Kuch kisi ko pata nahi hone diya, right? But today, this is what is my choice given to me. I don't have an option, and I would rather not take that option of not doing anything. It is important because this can happen to you. It can happen to anybody in your
Yeah,
circle
exactly.
of life. I didn't
Exactly.
I didn't expect this to happen, right? Now, nobody in my
Correct,
family had an
correct,
history.
correct.
Kuch nahi. So, if you're sticking around, you're learning a thing or two. If not doing anything else, it's that's also enough.
Absolutely.
That's also enough.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a good fear, and
Mhm.
it helps me sort of probe a little bit further. I think the fear right now, if you ask me, is what beyond me, right? Which is making me ask these questions, because I know treatment is one thing. Milega, nahi milega is again, uh, it's something that I've left it to God, because
Yeah,
the value of money, everybody knows. It can come, it can go, it can
yeah.
it can happen or not happen. But what about the social fabric? What happens to these children after after you're dead and gone? How
Mm.
are they going to manage? There's no treatment for the
The same
social
question in
disease.
autism as well. Many more communities that are coming up, assisted living communities, resident.
Exactly what I was wanting to hear, that we need
Yeah,
to have these uh,
lots parent-led initiatives of building up communities where families stay together, take care of each other's children, and
so nice
become a big, huge uh,
village that
village.
support each other. Thank you so much, Nirupama, and God bless you. Yeah, I can
Wow, what
never
an intense conversation.
conversation. It was fun. I love these actually, and that's one of the reasons why I handpick my guests. I know, not everybody can do this. Right? It's not in everybody to have an open-hearted conversation. Everybody can talk, and they can be very polished in their conversation, but not everybody can speak from their heart. So thank you so much for always
Most
being there,
welcome. Thank
and
you for having me and for trusting that I can talk on this.
always. You were the first person from the education space who openly accepted care. So that's how I remember you, and that's how I will always remember you.
Everyone can learn. Everyone can learn. It just depends on how much they can learn or how they can learn, but they can learn.
Work, I'm sure you're touching lives as I speak. So keep doing that. And like your daughter rightly said, don't sit at home because you are doing miracles outside. I completely am
I'm
with
not
her on
going
this.
to.
Thank you,
I
Nirupama.
thank her for this.
No, no, she is just
Thank
having
you,
fun. My
Monisha.
pleasure.
Lots of
Bye. Take
love
care.
to
Bye.
you and to
Bye.
your daughters.